Making a video. An inmendham video, I believe. Anyway, lots of different subjects, but I thought I would take care of this first. So it's just a link to an argument I've made in the past about Thunderfoot and the bikini thing and the blah blah pool thing, where contrast against his argument that women are sort of responsible for what they get themselves into, in the sense that they're not supposed to do what they're doing with Thunderfoot in this video. Quite obviously, he would say if they got raped, it was their own fault. So you don't go to the Colorado mountains without a leopard gun or whatever. If you wear a mini skirt, you're asking for it kind of argument, and that's Thunderfoot's argument. So anyway, I've referenced the video before, but I didn't know where the fuck it was, and so it's part of all the videos Old Fan's been uploading. So just for historical reference, I'll post a link to it below. I'll just show a little clip of it here, just because I don't know if you really want to watch it. You certainly don't want to watch my intro, I don't think. A bit rambly for no good reason. But it is bizarre, and it just makes Thunderfoot out to be a hypocrite, in the sense that, he wasn't informing these women that they were giving up some of their rights, by playing patty cake in the pool with him. And he should have informed them of that if he thought of them as friends. Yeah. Anyway, it's on the Android right now, so
Unhealthy addict. That's Thunderfoot. That's JLYP. And you're watching Atheist Jackass.
Baba, Atheist Jackass.
Really nice hit.
Oh, you pull out my hair. Right, the more station I can have, I'm pulling out my nipple hair.
You're welcome.
okay. Alright. It really is quite embarrassing for everyone. Very awkward. So it's like a half an hour of that. Anyway, it was Blog TV years ago, and sorry you people did that, but you did make it public, and it's just things you do in public. Look, I've made videos, some of them I'd like to pull back and say, oh gee, I shouldn't have done that. But that's just the way it goes. So sorry, and especially, like I said, I got nothing against a healthy addict, a fun girl. It's just a counter argument to Thunderfoot's rhetoric that if girls behave this way, they get what they deserve, and that's bullshit rhetoric. And certainly his whole idiotic notion that if a woman doesn't go run to the police, she isn't raped, and all of that other crap that he spews in his effort to malign women and defend badly behaving men. Pretty much. So on to some more sex talk. Some idiot who, I guess it's the female version of the Joker from Batman, kind of an icon. Chu Chow, I don't remember the name. I just deleted him or whatever. Do not show comments or whatever. Some sort of rag because I mentioned TJ, and TJ used to do these blog TVs, okay, and somebody's probably got them all recorded somewhere, and he'd talk about all kinds of shit. So I mean, somebody can probably verify that TJ has talked about all kinds of sexual things and encounters and preferences and all that shit. So I'm not making any direct accusations. I just know TJ has talked about it in the past and was kind of probably to his own jeopardy a little bit too said too much. So fuck you. And then the Brett Keane thing, obviously I was making a joke to Brett Keane, and a satirical joke in the sense that, do you want me to treat you the same way as you're treating these people you're maligning, by throwing their icon on a video with an accusation tied to it, and you don't really provide any evidence. That's all I was doing with that, so I didn't make any serious accusation that Brett Keane was a pedophile. So fuck commenters like that, who don't pay any attention to what I'm saying. They instead lie about what I'm saying. So yeah, fuck you. Anyway, I should have left the comment up and read it, but I didn't think I'd be doing comments, but I just said, what the fuck. So anyway, I have been, I have had little patience and just been hitting the delete button because fuck it. It's, idiots who can't pay attention to a video. I just couldn't care less. So anyway, most of this is okay. Tricks. I thought he was holding my pregnancy test in the thumbnail. I sent it in the mail. Guess he hasn't gotten it yet because he hasn't said anything. Well, there's nothing to say. You know that the aliens are going to take whatever fetuses are created that are mine. I've already explained that to you. So as soon as you do some kind of upside down thing, they're going to take it. So it doesn't matter. It's not an issue. Don't worry about it. Okay, once that surprise video reminds me of, I hate this, I just don't, I just don't like when people post not enough of a reference, but I do like that he does this quoting and time codes, also very good, thank you. It's kind of a nice feature. I wish I had the patience to do it myself. This is just really kind of nice, I mean, it's not that, it doesn't say too much, religious folk doesn't say too much, but, sometimes the quotes are very useful. Anyway. Okay, I have to do, well, that's not important. Yeah, I haven't heard from the DP. They should have you on as a guest on the DP. Yeah, well, we'll see. It would be, I'm just, it is a little strange, like exactly what subjects are going to be covered and which ones are taboo. But anyway, who knows. Let's see, some crap about ungluing, and I'm not fucking amazing, blah, 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 whatever. Let's see, tooth, no, that's not good, that's not useful. Oh, these really aren't too bad. This foolish productions guy. So this is the whole thing about defending the word mind, but he basically concedes in a way that, yes, okay, it's okay, you can say screw that. I mean, if people understood words and they had a definition, then I'd say it was fine, right? So he has a whole description of what he's calling mind, and mind would be the interior viewing room of consciousness, the screen and the projector. Your brain is creating a screen and a projector and running a movie of your reality, and that way it can put all kinds of stuff in the movie and blah 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 blah. And if that was the understanding of what mind was the illusion of the theater of the mind. So if that's the understanding, the theater of the mind, if that's the way people are going to understand the way mind, then it would probably be a safe word. But yeah, they don't do that, so it's not a safe word, so yeah, stay away from it. Anyway. Agree to engineering chilling truth, I don't know what that is. German frickin' Brett's missing, blah blah blah. He should be. Hello, diarrhea. I'm not interested. Yeah, okay, I'm not interested in that either. Okay, but wait, my intuition tells me that truth is contingent upon a perceiver, i.e., senses in the brain to represent those senses. This is not to advocate for relativism. But to me it makes no sense to imagine the world without a perceiver. Well, again, it just doesn't matter. The point is the perceiver is just an illusion created by the mixture of sensations and representational language, and it just, it just doesn't matter. What the fuck? There's always something trying to break in when I'm making videos, damn it. Go away. It doesn't seem like anything's out there, but the light didn't turn on, so it can't be anything big. You never know when a bar is going to show up. Just decide to walk in. I don't really like living with bars. Anyway, sorry, it's just stuff happens. So let's see. I don't know if I want to get into this, but I want to get to the kind of the trick shit eventually here. But it makes sense. Whatever. Where's the end of a sentence here? God, the sentence goes on forever. You would find that you are imagining another perceiver. Therefore, this world does not exist without a perceiver. Okay, well, that's just idiotic. It's up on a roof now. And truth does not exist out there. Well, again, whatever. Reality exists, and you can accurately describe it. That's the nature of truth. The relationships are real. So if you think you're making reality, you are living in a cartoon. With regards to truth, when the brain represents the objects, well, again, if you're saying there are no objects, it makes objects, or it doesn't represent objects, it makes them, of the world, it projects onto its form. I don't know what that means. Mobility, extension, etc. And given these properties, we can then infer the truth. It's nothing I said. And as you say, Gary, we cannot know what pain is unless we have felt it. This confirms that truth is contingent upon the perceiver. Again, no, it just is contingent upon having enough information. Obviously, you can't know the truth without having context, but the truth of pain itself is a truth, the negative quality of it. You don't have to be very smart to feel very bad. That's a fact. So this is just bullshit. Sorry, you're just not getting it. Somebody tried to explain it to him, but I don't know if they got anywhere. Okay. So yeah, here's the anti-Countervod little smiley face joke thing. Somebody called you an anti-Semite, but I could have sworn that ... Yes, what, you could have sworn that I was an advocate for defending things from harm, from being tortured or tormented because you want to play a game and you're a sadist. So protecting people from sadists or protecting living things from sadists is the same thing as being a Nazi. Oh, never mind. Yeah, exactly. Never use your mind, right? And always avoid letting the brain get in your way. Fuck. Alright, so Trick did this. I didn't say blah blah blah, and then I pointed out that yes, you did say blah blah blah. And so I'll read this Trick comment. Because this is odd thing, and this thing just pisses me off. I hate that people play this game, that somehow we can't understand ought when we can understand value, and that's just the truth. And the oughts are just made out of doing the math. The ought is just the equal sign, for fuck's sake. And for Trick to pretend that the ought is more elusive than the math in the equation. Like, you fill out all the stuff in the formula, and Trick says the tricky part is going divide by or multiply by. No, that's not the tricky part. Identifying the variables is the tricky part. Doing the math is the simple part. That's one way of saying it. The is ought. Well, that is very different than truth not existing. Well, in your opinion, again, I'm just saying that if you say ought doesn't exist, that it's some subjective made-up thing perceived by people, and that it isn't just as real as the negative circumstance it's a consequence of, yeah, I mean, I'm going to say you're basically denying its existence, and you might as well deny the simpler component, or the other component of the value itself. I mean, if you're going to deny the plus sign and the equal sign, you might as well deny the 1, the 2, the 5, the minus 5. You might as well just deny the existence of the numbers if you're not going to bother doing the math. The numbers only have meaning because you're going to do the math without someone to know it. Well, that is very different than truth not existing without someone to know it. Well, again, you're just arguing that you need a someone to feel it for there to be an ought, and that's just bullshit. And where we do disagree. The value is in the bad negative experience, though. It is entirely descriptive, and frankly, the equal sign is entirely descriptive. It's entirely saying what's your balance. You have -3, you have +2, what's your balance? And your balance is just as real as the 2 and the -3. Prescriptions are done after we have a description to prescribe. Well, that's a nice piece of crap. Prescriptions are done after we have a description to prescribe. Yeah, exactly. You do the math after you have the numbers. That's right. So you put the numbers in the equation and then you do the math. And the math is just addition. It's really the only thing, right? You're just adding positive and negative numbers, but it's just addition and an equal sign, and that's it. And that's what an ought is. An ought is just the shit on the other side of the equal sign. One ought to do, which is good ethical. Fuck the word ethical. You're just saying what the value math requires. It's the same damn thing. Ought is just saying do what the value math requires. And the value math requires that you end up with a positive number, so you always put a variable in of the what the prescriptive behavior is, what you're going to multiply the product of the math by to get rid of the negative, to create a less negative product. And whatever prescription fulfills the least negative product is the one you must choose. If they aren't to be unethical, the contingent if is logically necessary here. The point is that there's no, we're saying that we're rationally describing, accurately describing feelings, so that we can't change their disposition, we can't change their reality for convenience sake. So there are no ifs in here. You don't have a right to if your way out of it. And the math is going to dictate the ought product. The ought product is just as hard a truth as the elements that went into the equation. That is where the ought is located. Well, sorry, it's not located in discretion. Just as you don't have the discretion to pretend torture is fun, you don't have the discretion to pretend that a negative product doesn't indicate it must be corrected, and there is now an ought. It ought to be, it needs to be, it has to be, by logic, by reasoning, by the same inevitable honesty. If you're going to be truly honest, the ought is automatic as soon as you have an unnecessarily negative product. If the negative product can be improved, then you must impose the improvement. The intrinsic value is the fact that the experience is a descriptively bad experience as it plays out, and just as it plays out in the total book of reality, your obligation is to produce oughts that create the best end number. I believe in descriptive ethics, whatever that means, meaning that we can determine what is good and bad, right and wrong. Again, I also agree that we can figure out math. We can figure out some rough mathematical weights, and they're not going to be as precise as we might like. But yes, we can certainly know the extremes, as I've pointed out. And if we just do good extreme math, that'll be good enough math, and it's good enough math to produce oughts. But those values and actions are descriptive. Well, again, the idea of knowing that knowing the product. If a cat's playing with a mouse and it's tormenting the mouse, that is, it's not eating it, it's just not hungry, it's just playing with it, and it really doesn't, you can play with a ball instead. The ought is the cat ought to do something else with its claws and teeth. Play with something else that doesn't suffer. That ought is real. It's a fact. Just as real as the mouse's pain is the fact that the mouse ought not to be tortured, because it's not necessary torture, it's not value efficient torture, it will not create a better number in the end of the universe for the mouse to be tortured. And that ought is just as hard as the torture is real. But those values and actions are descriptive and prescribed only to ethical caring configurations. It's just the most illogical crap to talk about this ethical caring configurations. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with configurations that respect the truth. If a configuration respects the truth, and I've presented a situation where there's a negative number, the cat's satisfaction is only a +1, the mouse's torment is a -7 million, the math is in huge deficit, the ought is automatic, the cat ought not to be torturing the mouse. Just like we can prescribe an ethic to, just like we can't prescribe an ethic to a bear or rock. Well, now you're calling a rock the same thing as a bear, which is bullshit. But clearly, obviously, a prescription to something that doesn't have any agency would be useless. Clearly, a bear can't understand us, but that's the only real limitation from us auditing it. If the bear could understand English, we would audit all over the place. We would give it a hell of a prescription and say, yeah, don't do that, stop that. You know, don't chew on living things. We can't to a person who cares not about being ethical. Again, the ought has nothing to do with what the person's intent is. The ought is what's the judgment of their behavior. And if they were robots, it still would be a valid question to say that thing ought not to be, the key shouldn't be turned on. If the machine is just going to cause more harm than good, it ought not to be turned on. That ought is real. It has nothing to do with what the machine thinks, how the machine acts. It has clearly just to do with the product of its interaction in the universe. The interaction is not satisfactory. It ought to be improved. It then takes ethical people to stop them. Well, again, this ethical people would be just some notion, people who understand the truth of the value math. Well, obviously you have to understand the truth of the value math to be able to understand the equal sign. So yes, you have to understand what math is, and you have to understand what value is to be able to do math. But again, it is just as real as a function of math as the numbers. The equal sign is just as real. Well, the plus sign really. Just as we would a bear running through town killing people. It takes ethical people to stop them, just as we would a bear running through town killing people. Well, that's not a very cogent sentence. But regardless, it has nothing to do with ethical people. Ought is a statement about the circumstance. Ought is saying the circumstance is not satisfactory, and it is just as obvious and just as real as the value that makes the ought. To me, it makes no sense. Well, to me, it makes no sense is how I'm describing this ability of yours to somehow separate value from the obvious statement built into the value. The negative statement built into the word a -3, its negative statement is loud and clear. It can't be missed. You can't combine it with other numbers without its obvious negativeness. It's like magnetism or electricity. The forces will interact in the sense on the thing you put in the charge field. It will do the math automatically. It will feel the -3, it will feel the +2, and it will move in the direction required because of the field. So I'm just saying this is the ought is just a fact of happening. Let's see. Description. We don't do that anywhere else. To me, it makes no sense to embed a prescription within a description. Well, the prescription is part of the description. As soon as you describe the circumstance as torture, the prescription is automatic. And now, how precise the prescription isn't automatic, but the prescription that not a satisfactory conclusion. We have a negative number, it's got to be improved. Negative, bad, in need of improvement. It's got to be fixed. Below 0 has to be fixed. That's the prescription. We don't do that anywhere else. We do it, in my opinion, everywhere. I don't even know what that means. We don't do it anywhere else in what sense? We don't, where exactly is prescription not inside of description? If I say a girl is on fire, if I say a girl is tied to railroad tracks, how is it possible that the ought isn't automatic? That's a bad circumstance and it ought to be fixed. Somebody ought to save the day. It's obvious. A pill is a cure regardless if one rejects the prescription and dies. A pill is a cure. regardless if one rejects the prescription and dies. Well, that's almost an argument in my favor. The ought exists. Whether somebody can understand it has nothing to do with its existence. Just because somebody doesn't understand that torture is bad, it doesn't make torture good. Because they don't understand it's bad doesn't make it good. Because somebody doesn't understand an ought doesn't mean the ought doesn't exist. The ought is contingent on an if. No, it isn't. It's only contingent on the existence of the negative. If the negative is strong and it exists and it overwhelms all the positives, the product is a negative number and it ought to be fixed. If one does not want to die, one ought take the pill. Now you're using it in some conditional circumstance where you know, you're not really defining a certain negative. So now you're saying if one doesn't want something, what people want, we've already established, doesn't necessarily have to do anything to do with value. People want to watch animals fight with each other and kill each other. People want to do lots of stuff that's negative. So first you'd have to establish that if one does not want to be tortured, one ought to take the pill. Then try to say that that somehow isn't logically perfect. Likewise with ethics, if one does not want to be an unethical person creating negative value, again, you can't be any other kind of person. The point is the negative value creates an automatic ought. That's the only thing that the ethical person is seeing. He's seeing the automatic fact that the negative means something. He's seeing what the negative is. The negative couldn't be a negative if he doesn't recognize it as a negative. And once he's recognized it as a negative, the ought is automatic. One ought to do which is ethical. No, one ought to do which is value by value math, the most productive. That creates the least negative number, right? Because you can't really say the highest positive number because, frankly, we don't make too many of those. So the whole thing is create the less negative product. That's the ought built into the very concept of negative existing. As soon as negative exists, it must be corrected when it's unnecessary, isolated. And for other ethical people, if they know someone is unethical, they ought to prevent them from this for the same reason. Again, the argument is that the end number is the only number that matters, is the total number for the total game. And so obviously if there's some maneuver you can perform that will substantially change the end game number to a less negative number, you ought to do it. And it's built into the value numbers themselves. Ought is automatic. The negative would have no meaning if it had no meaning. It wouldn't mean anything to have a negative if the ought wasn't built in. Fuck. So, yeah. So, I mean, and this is sort of significant. I'm just saying this is ought thing. As soon as you concede this element of subjectivity, in my opinion, you compromise all, because it's the most important. It's the fucking most important element of value is the prescription. And you're turning that into subjective, which in my opinion just destroys the whole point of having a conversation about value. So if the ought isn't automatic, if the ought isn't logically rigid, then you've destroyed even having a conversation about the meaning of torture, because you've made the prescription subjective, and it's not. It's logically necessary. It's rigidly demanded. Something like that. Alright, so anyway, I'll leave a link to the Thunderfoot. There's another video that I haven't watched yet, so maybe we'll play that. It's supposed to be some, like, kitty ephilism. Yeah, it's kind of like porn or something. It's all Asian and such. Very nice. There we go. Light does
Hello
philosophy.
YouTube, and today I'm remaking a video I made a few days ago about antinatalism. The reason I'm remaking it is because during the editing process I cut out a whole chunk of commentary that explains what antinatalism is.
Yeah, that's sort of a problem. Yeah, you really don't want to have the content of the video not in the video. But I've done that before. So anyway, I'll leave a link to that too. Very good, excellent. Get them while they're young. It's probably important. You know, that sort of is true. You know, if you could just get to the minds of the youth, you can control the world. Unfortunately. You know, it's just sad that people are so emotionally conditioned, and they gain these strong attachments to this tradition. And you know, I've sort of argued that I was just so fortunate in my life, in the sense that I always remained alien. I always felt quite unconnected, and therefore I didn't attach to other people's attachments, or them even, you know, in the proper sense. Not that I didn't love my family, don't get me wrong. I mean, I you know, idolized my father and things like that, you know, as a young kid. But they weren't part of my life, you know what I mean? I mean, they weren't part of how I had to live every day. So my experience of the world was always my experience of the world. It wasn't a shared experience. And so my conclusions I drew were all my conclusions. I wasn't being told what I was looking at. I was informing myself by playing with it, and then I would draw my own conclusions, and then I would test them, you know, with adults, and I would hear them say something I knew to be wrong because I had already done the experiment, so to speak. And so it was always that kind of an experience where they would give you the propaganda or the lie or what they think's in your own interest to believe, the voodoo kind of, you know, scare you or do something else, and you kind of knew from personal experience that that's not the truth. And yeah, that protected me from becoming one of them. You know, so I just never became one of them. Anyway, and that's really the thing that liberates you to see the truth, is you don't get glued to any bullshit, any stupid traditions. You know, I really just don't have too many of those. Ghostly. Anyway, so till next time. I mean, I have some, but they're not somebody else's traditions. They're my own traditions. Yeah, you know, my own kind of parade music. Just kind of funny, sort of, mostly. So anyway, enough of video. So I think we'll meander on until the next occasion for necessity to engage. I'd like to get to the physics here somewhere, but there's so much crap going on. So many distractions. You know, real life, you know, people and circumstances, and try to help, but you know what I'm saying, it's all so difficult to yeah, I'm very possessive of, you know, my time. It's like I really hate having to do stuff that isn't the stuff I want to do. I'm quite childlike. Yeah, I just don't like the rules of practical reality. Not a very useful thing for me to say, I suppose, but just for throwing it out there. Yeah, I don't like reality much. So, yeah, so what? Yeah, what are you going to do about it, Gary? Complain in kind of an awkward way. Apparently that's what I'm going to do. So I did that. I'll try not to do it I'll try not to do it every day. Try to like only complain in an awkward manner about life being sucky every few days. So anyway, until next time.